Hello and welcome to Meals with Maria. Today I have more period cooking for you. We're cooking from the 1960s. And when I think of the 60s, I'm thinking tie-dye and bell-bottoms, but I think at home it was a little bit different. And at-home cooking was based a lot on convenience items, very flavorful things that you could find in your pantry. And the cocktail party was like all the rage. Hi, buddy.
Yeah.
It's Julian's birthday. He's 5 today. Say happy birthday! Now, the kids were just talking to me about the 1960s and the meaning of cocktail, and they thought, did they eat a lot of fruit cocktail? That was a good question. I said, no, they're just like finger foods. Tommy says, like fish sticks? It's not exactly. Although maybe they were popular in the 1960s. Meatballs, yes. So we'll have a recipe with meatballs. We'll have a couple of other finger food recipes that are great for cocktail parties, but they're things that we still use today. But I did want to pick some recipes with like a little bit of a different twist on them. And I think these worked out great. JJ got a new game for his birthday, Kirby Battle. Oh, he wants to show you his birthday setup. So I'll give you an overview right now of his beautiful birthday setup. And then we will get to some 1960s cooking. For this first recipe, we are making Grandma's stuffed celery. Now, I've had stuffed celery before, and most of the time, I think it's just like cream cheese with some garlic powder or something inside the celery. Not something I've ever made before because, to me, I'm not knocking it if it's one of your favorites, but it hasn't been one of my favorites, right? Well, I saw this recipe and I thought, let's try this out because this is a little bit different than at least my experience has been. We're going to be using some pimento stuffed green olives, and I love green olives. I love that salty flavor, especially mixed with cream cheese. I feel like, why do they not have green olive cream cheese for bagels? Because I think that would just be fabulous. So I cut up a bunch of stalks of celery, as much as you want to serve. I wasn't having too big of a group of people eating it, so I didn't make too many. For that cream cheese stuffing, I'm taking a little bit less than a half a cup of green olives and just chopping those really finely. And we're going to mix those with 1 package of cream cheese at room temperature with some garlic powder. Probably about a teaspoon. And if you have fresh chopped garlic or you have some fresh garlic you can chop up, go ahead and use that because that is what the original recipe calls for. But me, in the essence of time on this particular day, I was like, let's just throw some garlic powder in here, and it was absolutely phenomenal. You can also salt and pepper this to taste and just mix everything up really well. Like I said, I just wanted to serve this on a bagel, but it was a lot more carb friendly and delicious on the celery with that crunch of the celery as well. You just want to fill your stalks of celery with your cream cheese mixture. And if you have any left over, I do actually recommend, aside from a bagel, just putting it on a cracker is absolutely great. I tried it on like a club cracker, and I thought this was a great filling. So it's something I might make up and not even put in celery all the time. It's just a great dip as it is. I feel like the 1960s was full of all these recipes that we still see today, and I was surprised that, that's kind of when they originated and when they started, because I never really think about that kind of stuff. I found that the wedge salad, which we're not going to make today, but is absolutely delicious. It's a quarter head of iceberg lettuce with some blue cheese dressing, blue cheese crumbles, and bacon. That was very popular in the 1960s and maybe started in the 50s, but it's questionable. But either way, it was like kind of a 1960s staple, which is a fun fact. This next recipe is for, yes, cocktail meatballs. Now, I don't know that they were using frozen meatballs back in those times, but for me, this is a convenience item that is super helpful sometimes. Obviously, make your favorite meatballs if you want to go that route, but I do find that if you're comparing like a pound of ground beef and a pound of cocktail meatballs frozen, it actually ends up pretty close sometimes. So look for those deals, look for those sales, and get those frozen when you can, because they're a great thing to keep in the freezer to throw out there at the last minute. Another great thing about this recipe is it's a 3-ingredient recipe, much like the last recipe. We have chili sauce, or you can use cocktail sauce, or you can use barbecue sauce. I'm just using the whole container of chili sauce. I feel like every time that I've done something like this with whatever I find in my fridge, which would be one of those 3 things, pouring the whole thing in there works just fine. And then we're going to add 1 container of grape jelly. Again, I'm not exactly sure on size. I just grab the one that they have at Aldi and put that in there, and it tastes delicious. So I wouldn't be too worried about whatever size you have on hand. I've also tried this with apricot jam and barbecue sauce, and that was phenomenal. So the cool thing about these is you kind of make them whatever you want, but I believe that the traditional style that started in the 1960s was the grape jelly and the chili sauce. Now, slow cookers were developed in the 1950s, but they really didn't become popular in the US until the 1970s. So during the 60s, many of the recipes were actually for baked meatballs. But now today's version of this, as things have changed and come about, definitely everybody knows this as their perfect, most favorite, even it's called a cult classic crock pot recipe. So there are families that I know have eaten this for years around the holidays, and it's a must have. And I'm kind of one of those families. It's absolutely fabulous. You want to cook these in your slow cooker on high for 4 hours, and they turn out absolutely amazing. They are a winner every time. You can't miss. I mean, you can't mess this up. It's awesome. For this next recipe, we're going to make a version of French onion dip using Lipton onion soup mix. This recipe became popular starting in 1954, but became really, really popular in the 1960s. Now, the original recipe was with sour cream and the Lipton soup mix, and that is it. And that is traditionally how I've always made it. It was also called California dip because I guess the dip was started in California. So for a long time, they only referred to it as California dip, which is very interesting. Today, maybe I'm going to start calling it California dip from now on. I don't know. But I found this recipe, which was a little bit different, but kind of took a different spin on some other dips that had actually been made earlier, I think. And you're just going to use some cream cheese and a packet of the soup mix and a 1/4 cup of milk. And I mixed this all up, and I thought, this is just far too thick for me. I'm used to my sour cream dip. So in the end, I did end up adding about a 1/2 cup of sour cream to this. Now, the benefit to this is sometimes I don't have a whole container of sour cream and I'm heading to a party or I'm heading somewhere and I need to make something fast. And I thought this would be a good try, a good way to see like alternative ingredients, right? If I always have Lipton soup mix in my cabinet, what can I use to end up making a dip if I don't have that big thing of sour cream? So I think in the end, I would say if you have a little bit of sour cream and you have some cream cheese, you can then make a very good French onion dip or California dip from the 1960s without having that whole container of sour cream. So it's just an alternative option. You don't have to go shopping and you don't have to stress if it's something that you already have on hand. I hope you had a fun trip to a 1960s cocktail party today. I hope you got some good ideas and some alternatives and different things that you can do when you need to make something quick and you want to make some finger food. It seems to me like cream cheese was a very popular item then. There's a lot of desserts during that era that had kind of like the Cool Whip and the cream cheese mixed together. And I'll just post a couple of those down in the description box for you if you want to do something sweet as well. I want to thank you so much for being here today. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And then click on this next video so that you can check out some recipes from the 1940s. And I'll see you all very soon.